What a lot of people don't know, back in like February, right? They're like, oh, we need to do a promo for the summer. And we're like, what? Like, I don't know what we're going to do this summer. And they're like, no, we need to make a promo, announce that shows are going to come back. And we made a promo. We did this thing. South Park's coming back this night, and it showed a whole bunch of clips. We made it all up just for the promo. And everybody was like, everyone was going, oh man, those guys, they used to do, now they're just front loading shows. They're not going to be topical anymore. I was like, you seriously think we went and made a bunch of shows ahead of time and we're like banking them for later? Like, we've never done that.
You have screwed me, pennypacker.
Okay, so we're 4 episodes into season 27 of South Park, and I think it is just about time to actually talk about this series. Season 27 of South Park has been something rather different than previous seasons, and really I think it's really worth talking about because I have actually enjoyed this season quite a bit. As I said, we're only 4 episodes into this season, and I think we've seen some really rather massive changes to the season and the show, which I think have been really quite well done. So of course I want to talk about those changes in this video today, but also I just want to give my own thoughts on whether or not I think the show is actually doing well with this season. And now to start with, I want to answer a big question that I know will be on a lot of different viewers' minds. Is season 27 of South Park any good? And I think the answer to that question is a resounding drum roll please. Yes. And really I say this because I think the worst cardinal sin that any animated comedy can commit to is the idea of not being funny. However, thankfully that's not something we have to deal with in this video, because really I think that this season so far has been actually quite funny. And really I think it's managed to be as funny as it has, really due to a combination of various different things, like their story and character writing, in addition to the targets they go after in this season. Now for a second I just want to put aside the story and character writing decisions to focus on the political commentary and other ideas that have been focused on throughout the season's episodes so far. Of course, South Park is a show that's built its longevity on just really taking various different shots at a lot of different sorts of social and political topics and trends, and I think this has really been something that has continued with this season. And now of course if you're a viewer here who has seen these newest episodes, then of course you know what I'm talking about. And really, with that, I just want to say that I want to go over a few of these topics briefly, just to give my own thoughts and opinions on how well they've been written and have developed across the season so far. And for anyone who hasn't seen the season so far, let me just say that I'm only going to talk about these topics briefly so that there can be as few spoilers as possible.
What is a labubu?
To start off with the biggest one, which I think has to be the idea that woke is dead. Yep, it's really the idea that really gets the most focused in the first episode and then continues to be developed across the season so far, and honestly, I like this idea for the show. South Park has always been that type of show that has been really interesting in just the way that it's portrayed a lot of its political decisions and social decisions, and really I think that this whole sort of social and political stance the show has taken over the last few years has really informed a lot of its character. Really, the show was never afraid to do and say things that other people might think were controversial, and I think that really helped build up its fan base. However, it did occasionally feel like the show was leaning in one direction socially and politically, which I think has inadvertently led to the show having a more right-wing fan base, which has been inadvertent of any decisions or will and intent that the creators might have had for these ideas going in. And really, I think you can see a lot of these ideas in just the way that Cartman has been written in this season so far. Of course, he hasn't had a chance to shine in a lot of episodes so far, but really he does get a good segment in the premiere of this season, where of course he gets the titular idea that woke is dead, which really then gets him to start questioning his whole purpose, as he continues to believe and actually realizes that the sorts of shit that he used to say for years and years has now basically just become the norm at this point in time. Really, Cartman used to be just your typical asshole who would say anything he wanted without a care in the world, and of course people believed and knew that he was wrong for doing so. However, in our modern world today, there have been far too many grifters who have realised that they can use this same strategy to really build up their own power and influence. And so many people have begun to realise that in fact that Cartman is now not an outlier, but basically just part of the new norm. Which of course now leaves him questioning his whole purpose and life decisions, as he's really no longer an outlier, but instead just basically another person, just another random guy. And of course we do see him try and regain a little bit of that power and influence by just becoming a debate bro, but really that doesn't work out well for him, as he is usurped again by somebody else who's just willing to say the exact same sort of shit. And really, for Cartman, I think that these are all really great ideas, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how his character is going to develop further as the season goes on. And of course, this idea isn't the end for the whole woke is dead thing, because of course the show attempts to properly develop this idea and take it across the entirety of South Park. And really, you can see the idea leak into the political commentary, which we'll talk about later. But in addition to that, you can also see how it leaks into the characters themselves and how it leaks into certain institutions across South Park, like the school, where, of course, Jesus is now mandatory in class. And of course, this leads into its own set of shenanigans, with Jesus being in school, and of course then sticking around for the rest of the season, being the school counsellor. As of course, Mr. Mackey has had to go and get his nut because of course woke is dead and the school no longer needs Mr. Mackey, as it instead only needs Jesus. Which I think has been a really rather interesting idea, as it's allowed the spotlight to be put on various different characters who have had their own different sorts of reactions and ideas about what is happening around them. And of course, we're only halfway through the season so far, and I think that we'll see more of these ideas get properly developed in future episodes. And yes, as I said earlier, the worst cardinal sin that any animated comedy can commit is the idea of just not being funny. And really, however, I think that this idea that South Park has had for woke being dead has actually been really quite funny. Honestly, I actually believe that this idea has really allowed for some really quite interesting character writing and actually funny and comedic writing as well. Of course, we haven't had many adventures with the usual gang of boys that we've come to know across the show so far. However, this idea has been so prevalent in the series so far that I've actually still really rather enjoyed the episodes that have been released. Which leads me into the last thing I want to talk about, which has to be the political commentary. And really, I like the ideas that have been taken with a lot of the political commentary that we've been given so far. And yes, I know the show's had a lot of different mixed opinions on just how the show has been developing its political commentary this season, and whether or not we've had too much of these political commentary moments in various different episodes so far. But really, I actually do enjoy just how we've been given the political commentary this season, and what sorts of political commentary have been taken by the creators of the season so far. Which of course, yes, means we have to talk about him.
Donald J. Trump.
Okay, so when it comes to its political commentary and the president, I think that this show has done actually quite well so far. And of course, I'm not just saying that as someone who doesn't like the president or this current administration. Instead, I'm just saying that as someone who has actually enjoyed the episodes that have been released this far, and who has enjoyed the political commentary that we've been given this far. And yes, I'm not someone who's actually adverse to seeing any more of these political ideas in the show going forward, because I enjoy them. I find a lot of the political commentary actually very funny as well. And really, I'm saying that because I'm someone who actually enjoys how the show is setting up a lot of its political commentary. The show doesn't just hit you with one Donald Trump joke or one government joke and just repeat that across the entirety of the season. Instead, it actually approaches the subject from various different angles in every different episode. Of course, we got the Donald Trump has a small dick joke in the premiere, which is just, South Park's usual childish humour. But also later on, in the third episode of this season, we get more jokes about just how easy it is to bribe the president. And really, I like how this show has just chosen to really kind of shit on and criticise Trump's presidency from a wide variety of different angles and perspectives. And also, I'm just glad we're back at a point that South Park can say shit about the president and the government, and really the president and the government will fall for the trap and say something in return. Of course, I know we're only halfway through this season so far, and I am actually still enjoying the season, as I've said, but really, do I think I'll enjoy the season as it goes on? And really, yes, I think I will. And now, I'm not saying that what the show is doing is brilliant. In fact, I'm saying that I'm just enjoying what it's doing currently, because really, there are things that I would like to see the show do more of as the show goes on. Now, to end this video, I'd just like to talk about a few things I'd like to see a little bit more of as Season 27 continues. And really, the big one for me is just seeing a few more adventures with the usual cast of boys that we've come to know across the entirety of the show so far. Like I said, the show is taking a lot of risks by exploring new ideas of woke being dead and the end of Integrity Farms. But really, I don't want the show to lose its roots and forget about the boys and their adventures. Of course, I want to see the show continue to explore these new ideas, but honestly, just getting an episode or two about just the boys going on an adventure would be something that I think me and a lot of other viewers would actually really enjoy. Really, I think that the main cast of boys for this show have been something that have been really quite integral to the show's success. So getting a couple episodes where they're all teamed up for an adventure would be really quite nice to see again. Especially considering that we haven't seen them all together in a lot of the episodes that we've received so far. And finally, just to end this video, I want to talk about a couple more things just before we go. The first one being the fact that Integrity Farms is now gone. And how do I feel? Yeah, it's alright. Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent to the whole Integrity Farms arc ending because really I wasn't someone who was super into it, but still did enjoy a lot of episodes that got centered around it. Not to say that I'm someone who actively hated the Integrity Farms arc or anything, I thought it was quite fun a lot of the time, but really I am just kind of looking forward to getting back to normal. Especially considering that normal will be a point where Stan can actually get back to just being in South Park and actually being around a lot of his friends, except for Token, who seems to be back at his own meth farm. So, I don't know. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. And lastly this time, and I mean it, the last thing I want to talk about is just the idea that we are now on a 2-week development and release cycle for this show. And honestly, I'm fine with it. Honestly, if the show needs this time to properly develop its episodes and bring them up to snuff, I'm just perfectly fine with it. I don't see any problems with giving the creators just more time to actually put out a product that they're actually satisfied with. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's only like a week's difference than what we're used to. So, 2 weeks, honestly, I think it's fine. And really, I think the biggest benefit to this idea is just the fact that the fandom gets more time to put their own stuff out and really talk about and enjoy the episodes more. And honestly, I don't know if that's going to be a controversial opinion or not, but honestly, I don't care. Really, I think that if Matt and Trey need more time to develop something like, you know, the episode of an ending, then of course they can have it. Otherwise, we're going to get more endings like the ending of the second episode, Got Nut. And yeah, that's South Park Season 27 for me. I'm actually rather enjoying this season. And honestly, I want to know just how you feel about this season, so please, everybody, let me know what you think of this season so far in the comment section down below. Thank you all for watching, do all the YouTube stuff, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.